Welcome to Breaking the Glass Ceiling podcast. We'll be talking about the challenges we all face when we pursue success. We'll talk to individuals and professionals who give us insight and practical advice on how they broke the glass ceiling and actually reached their goals. Our mission is to give you the tools and resources that help you overcome obstacles and unlock your full potential. Our episodes may get a little edgy, so you may want to buckle up and get ready to break those pesky glass ceilings. Now here's your host, a true professional ready to take the journey with you, Celeste Sierra.
Welcome, everybody. We are here again on Breaking the Glass Ceiling, and I'm so excited to have my dear, one of my best friends, Christina Rodriguez. And I wanted to bring on Christina because she has a very unique story and probably a lot different than all of the people that probably follow me or that I talk to or that I surround myself with on a daily basis, you know, in the real estate and mortgage industry. Christina, you come from the tech industry.
Yes.
And you're top sales. And so we'll get into that, but tell us just a little bit about yourself and your family, just whatever you want to share with us.
Sure. So, Christina Rodriguez. I've been friends with Celeste for quite a few years now, and I love you very much, and I'm very excited to be here. As far as me, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I moved here for college, met my husband, now married with 2 little girls. I've been in tech sales for about 14 years now. And
which is a male dominated industry,
yes,
right?
Absolutely. Definitely male dominated. I grew up with both of my parents in tech sales. My mom was the VP of sales for very large software companies, hardware companies, even in the 80s and 90s, which is even 10 times harder than it is now. So that's why I grew up as a kind of a role model for me.
Yeah, so you actually grew up with someone doing the same thing you're doing now, but in a tougher probably time.
Oh, yeah.
So you grew up with a very strong role model.
Absolutely, yes.
Woman that you obviously looked up to.
Yes.
So tell us, all of us, so being in the tech world, like how do you navigate a male-dominated industry to become a top-ranking sales professional in the tech world? I mean, I see you time and time again taking the top spot of your company, and it always makes me obviously so proud to be your friend because I know how hard you work. But how do you do that? I mean, you really surround yourself with. So I think I remember, I don't know if it was this company or your past company, but you were probably like the only woman, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so that was this company.
Okay.
So I've been with BetterWorks, which is a performance enablement solution. So I sell into HR for very large strategic enterprise level organizations.
Yes.
And for a long time, my first probably over 2 years, I was the only female on a 9-person team. But I never felt like the only female on a 9-person team. Even with our upper management, I never felt singled out or identified differently.
Do you think that that's because why? I mean, because in any male-nominated industry, I feel like, well, I've heard from other women, like you have to be tougher, or you have to sometimes act more like a guy, or just, hold your ground. But why did you not ever feel?
So in previous companies, I had experienced that in previous industries, not even just companies, different industries.
Yeah.
That's absolutely the case for a lot of industries. Like I used to be in the recruiting world. And when I was in recruitment, the men would get the opportunities.
Right.
And, I played around with what was the right field for me, the right industry for me. And so that's whenever, I started going more into the software world and realized that, I need to lean into what I'm good at and what makes me who I am. And so not straying from, just the core of what I'm good at and what naturally I like to do, which is help people.
Right.
And so that's something that I really lead with.
So you're saying what I always talk about all the time is that success really comes from doing something that makes you happy. And that's exactly what you're saying right now. Like you're talking about like you lean into this because you wanted to help others and that was your way of being and being happy, right? So yeah,
absolutely.
So not doing something just for the money.
Yeah.
Right? Or just because it's a job, but really find something that's going to make you happy.
Absolutely. And I think that's also the key to what dictates your success, right? So like success looks different depending on who you are, where you sit, male, female, old, young, whatever, success looks different to you. So as long as you're succeeding in the way that you want to succeed through the way that you choose to succeed,
right?
Regardless of if you're male, female.
And as long as you're happy.
And as long as you're happy.
Because I feel like a lot of people just take happiness for granted and they feel that they're successful because they're driving the nicer car or they have all this money to buy a nicer home or whatever, but then at the end of the day, they're not happy. So that's really not success. Success comes from living a happy life.
Absolutely.
Whatever that looks like, right? Like you can be happy having all those things as well, but it's just whatever makes you happy. So I wanted to jump into, this is one of the things that for women, obviously it's pretty big. You mentioned, you're married, you've been married for many years now, and then you have your 2 little girls. As a working mom, how do you balance your career and your family responsibilities? Because we all know that it comes with, I don't want to say sacrifices, but at times it is, you do sacrifice certain things, to have a career and to be a successful career woman. So what would you say to everyone that's listening or watching us? How do you balance that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say that being able to find what makes your balance. So everyone's balance is going to be different. I used to work for organizations that I had to go into the office every single day. Right. And it was a not only 8 to 5, but you worked all the time. And that was very stressful. And I think when I had my first little girl, it was okay. And I kind of like was able to work with it. I didn't like necessarily putting her in daycare from, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Right.
But then eventually when I had my second baby, I realized, nope, this is definitely not the world for me. I need to figure out a way to continue to go after my passions and what my success looks like in a different way. And so I started working from home. So I've worked from home for over 10 years now.
Right.
And, working from home has its own challenges. And I feel like COVID kind of brought that on to a lot of people. And some people love it and some people absolutely hated it.
Right. Doesn't work for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah, but I love it. I love working from home. It gives me a balance between if I need to pick my kids up, if they're sick, if they need to go to a doctor's appointment, whatever that looks like.
Right. You have the time
I have
to do
that
so.
Flexibility.
Right.
And that was one of my number one things when finding a corporation that I wanted to work for.
Right.
Knowing that I'm in the corporate world, I don't own my own business.
Right.
It's different, right? So you have to go with what your boss tells you, what your organization tells you.
Right.
But finding those organizations that help to have that work-life balance or work-life integration is really important.
Yes. Integration. I like that.
Yeah.
Because I always talk about there's no balance. It's always imbalance. Like you can never balance either one. I love that. I'm going to use that. So another question I had for you is, how have you managed to stay motivated and driven, especially during challenging times? You kind of touched on that right now, talking about COVID, but what do you do to just, manage just being motivated and just keep going, especially like you said, working for through the corporate world, but being at home, not at an office? How do you do that? What can you tell everyone? Like, this is what I do. This is what keeps me motivated. I know that one of the things is probably working out. So what else do you do?
Yeah. So, working out is a big one. But then that comes along with all of your self-care that you should have as an individual. And making sure that you put yourself first is really big and really important as a busy person in general. Like
Right.
if you're going to be presenting yourself to the best way that you can, you need to appear that way. So I think that there's multiple things that fit into that as well. We had touched on balance, having that work-life balance. Persistence, I think, is really important as well. Don't give up. Like, how many times do you start a new diet, start a new workout,
Right.
start whatever that looks like? You have to be persistent. Same thing in the working world.
Right.
You have to be persistent and do your day-to-day duties and plant those little seeds, and eventually those little seeds will
Yeah.
blossom into flowers.
That's what I tell everyone all the time. I talk about how, things don't happen overnight. They take time, and you have to be patient. And being a human, for some reason, we're just built into having instant gratification on everything that we do in life, right?
Yeah.
In general, we just want it right now. And I think even as females and, just working females, we have to take the time to understand that it could potentially take longer for us too, because we do manage so many other things other than our work, right? We have families and we have kids. And so we just need to have that patience. So I think it's very important that you said that. As someone who is constantly on the go like yourself, how do you prioritize self-care? This is working perfectly. It's just going from one to the other. Self-care and maintain a healthy work-life balance. We just talked about that. There's no such thing. But so I think we're all very similar. But you can tell me, we always do we always make time to work out, and then our jobs, and then we prioritize our families as well. But share with everyone and women that are probably or could be struggling on how to manage all of those things in one day.
Yeah.
What would you say? Take it one day at a time?
I would say don't negotiate with yourself. I feel like a lot of the times people are like, oh, well, I have to do this or I have to do that. And in your head, and you're like, no, these are your priorities. Stick to your priorities.
Right. Priorities are definitely great. Let's see. I have some really good questions for you. How do you approach negotiating deals and building relationships with clients? Okay, we need to talk about one of your biggest accounts that you landed not long ago that we were all so proud in our friend group for you, because it was a huge deal and you made it happen.
Yes.
I want you to talk about that, because that was absolutely amazing.
So Google is a customer of BetterWorks, so 175,000 employees on a global scale, all utilizing the BetterWorks platform for their performance enablement needs.
That's amazing.
Thank you. It was definitely a team effort. So as far as how negotiations work, where I see success in sales is really along the lines of building relationships and cultivating those relationships and bringing in my team. My team that helps to support me is invaluable. From everyone within the organization, we always say everyone's in sales.
Right.
Not just me. Engineering's in sales, products in sales. Everyone is in sales, and everyone's there to help support me as kind of the face to the customer. But I would say, Google really partnered with us because of the relationships and because of our ability to partner with them.
Right. Relationships are huge. I feel sometimes we just miss, I don't even know what it is. People think the relationships is just the one-time meet and you're just looking at the sell, you're just looking for the sell. But at the end of the day, a relationship can take time. This was not a sell that it happened from one day to the other for you. It was a relationship that you established day in, day out until it actually, right?
Yeah,
it came
absolutely.
to a sell.
It's continuing to build on the relationships, continuing to meet other people, understand what their needs are. And it's not about me. It's about, every part of the organization sees success in a different way.
Right.
So how do you identify with that success, and how can you help them with their pain?
Exactly. Yeah. What has been your biggest challenge in your career, and how did you overcome it?
Biggest challenge.
Career.
So I think it would probably be what a lot of people are going through right now, which is there's a lot of layoffs, right? There's a lot of changes happening in upper management. And I've worked for Better Works now for 4 years. Before that, my organization I was with for 5 years. But before that, I was laid off from an organization, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. And so that was a big challenge for me, is do I continue on the same path in tech sales, or do I try to find something else that might be not as challenging or I guess dependent on the environment that I'm in, and the way that the world is.
And this is something that when we talked about doing the podcast, you wanted to touch on, and you wanted to talk about unemployment or getting laid off, right? It's such a huge thing right now, especially this year. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of it, right? Because of the economy and whatnot. And so that gave you the opportunity back then to look into what you wanted to do, right? Yeah. So would you tell everyone that could be going through, or maybe it could happen to them sometime this year, would your advice be to just take the time and really look into what it is that drives them? Because maybe they're in a company right now, right, that they're not happy. Mm-hmm. And then they can
blessing
use
in
this.
Disguise.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. So look at it in a different way, right? A blessing. Yeah,
absolutely. And making sure that whatever you do, like, you're happy with. And, I have been lucky that I am passionate about sales, which is a little bit different than a lot of people see it as, but being passionate about something is important, and then just continue to persevere and continue to be persistent in where your passions lie.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay, so this is a really cool one. What are your future goals and aspirations, both professionally and personally? Do you have any goals that you have set yourself for?
Yeah. So that's actually one of the biggest, foundational elements of what my company does, is we help build goals for organizations on a leadership level. So working with Google, working with Amazon, working with Intel, Starbucks, all different types of organizations, of how do you create those goals? So obviously we drink our own champagne.
And you have to create your own goals.
Exactly. So, working with where do I see my growth in my organization, in my career as a whole, and then how do I align that back to personal goals? So there's your professional goals, your aspirational goals, your work goals. So there's all different types. I would say the biggest ones for me is anything personal. So having to do with my family. How do I want to progress my kids? How do I want to progress my life as an individual? And then building that out from there, of what I'm passionate about and how I can connect it to what I'm doing.
Great. So last, I want you to share with everyone what would be, so I want to finish every podcast with just words of inspiration that you can share with everyone about. Obviously, the title of the podcast is Breaking the Glass Ceiling. And the reason for that was obviously because I want to be able to bring on professionals like yourself and people that could give those words of inspiration to someone, and hopefully it'll land and be like, okay, that's what I need to do, right? This is how I need to go about whatever's happening in their life. So what would you give to someone? What advice, what words of encouragement, inspiration to help someone just break through those barriers. The whole thing of the glass ceiling, if I haven't said it before, it's like I feel a lot of times we want to do things, but then something is stopping us, right? We always say, oh, well, something is stopping me. Well, I look at it as a glass.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, that's why I named it Breaking Through That Glass Ceiling, because it's that barrier that you have that you just want to cut through or break through.
Yeah.
So what would you give us all? Give us your advice.
Be comfortable with the uncomfortableness. Because that's where you're going to see your growth, and that's where you're going to see if you're in the right position. So making sure that, I think we've talked a lot about being persistent,
Right.
Talked a lot about having passion and having balance.
Not giving up.
Not giving up.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a big one for me too.
So
Yeah.
making sure that you're continuing to push what makes you uncomfortable so that you can grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with all of that. So I hope that everyone got something from this today, and I hope you liked it.
This was fantastic. Thank you so much.
I was so
very cool.
excited to have you, because it's so different to hear from obviously someone that works a corporate world, and because we're surrounded here with like just people that are like self-employed or whatnot, and it is a little different, but at the end of the day, we all go through the same exact things, and we always have the same, as women and the corporate world or self-employed, just trying to balance our lives and our kids and our families and everything. So I thank you so much for being here and being our second episode guest.
Yay!
And I hope that everyone takes a lot out of this one. And I thank you and I love you so much. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I love you too.
Thank you for joining us on Breaking the Glass Ceiling. We hope you feel empowered to break free from limitations that hold you back, so achieving your dreams is now possible. Don't forget to subscribe and be part of our inspiring conversations. But before we go, we want to remind you that you are capable of greatness, and by joining us next time, you can start shaking off that self-talk so you can move forward. That's one step closer to breaking the glass ceiling.